We're not far away, are we? Yesterday was 9 days out from report day. Did the Jawan Jennings camp yesterday, so didn't do the 9-day countdown, but we'll do Brayden Willis days away from 49ers training camp today. 8 days out, because 8 days out, if we're doing a jersey countdown, there is no 49er that's currently active on the team with the number 8. So we're Steve Young days away, but that's a retired jersey, right? There's nobody else on the roster with the number 8. So we're Brayden Willis days away. And I should open a window here with a few pictures of Brayden Willis to make it happen. Actually, I wrote an article about Brayden Willis, but I don't think that he was wearing the number 9 at the time. To check. Oh, he was, because he wore the 9 at Oklahoma. Perfect. Here we go. Brayden Willis days away from 49ers report day, but we're only 1 day away from Brayden Willis's report day. I hope all the rookies are in town in the Bay Area because they have to be at the team facility tomorrow, July 18th. The veterans, the next Tuesday, July 25th. So Brayden Willis up on your screen, Oklahoma tight end, 49ers pick, one of their picks in the 7th round. Is in the Bay Area, I would hope. He doesn't want to get fined, and he's going to get to work tomorrow. So this show is about the 49ers rookies who report to training camp on Tuesday. Why don't we go through several of the rookies? Willis is going to be one of them that we go through, and this article is going to be one that I link. I'm going to go ahead and put this into the description after I'm done, so you can go and check that out in the Athletics. Serendipitous 49ers connection for Brayden Willis, who I think, when you talk to the 49ers staff, they really, really believe that they got value out of Brayden Willis in the 7th round. They thought that he could have gone sooner in the draft, and they're very happy that he was still waiting for them there. Available out of Oklahoma in the 7th. All right, let's get going. 64 of you in here. We're going to cross 100 very soon. This seems like it could be a big show. I think that we're ramping up numbers again as we approach the regular season, or training camp. The regular season still a while away. Regular season, I would say, is probably still 40 to 50 days away, maybe 50 days away, right, at this point. So September 10th, still far away, but training camp much closer in that windshield as we approach. Look, my first title, sleeper pick, Brayden Willis. I think if you had to pick somebody out of this 49ers rookie class who is going to overperform relative to their selection status, so relative to 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, or relative to undrafted free agent status, my pick is the man up on the screen, Brayden Willis, tight end out of Oklahoma. Did not run the 40 due to an injury issue, and that might have prevented him from going a little bit higher up in the draft. He told me he runs a 4.6. That's fast. George Kittle runs a 4.5. That's really, really fast. But more importantly, just watch the tape of Brayden Willis and see that he's one of the best yards after the catch tight ends in the country. See that he's succeeded in multiple systems, and then get the reference from his tight ends coach at Oklahoma. Who's this guy? Former 49er, Joe John Finley. Played with Vernon Davis, played with Delaney Walker, learned tight end play from one of the teams that revolutionized tight end play with the 49ers. He said that he picked up more during his 2 seasons on the 49ers practice squad there than anywhere else in his career. And then Joe John Finley became Oklahoma's tight end coach, worked with Brayden Willis, who is that yak monster that the 49ers like. He's pissed off that he dropped down to the 7th round. And technically, he can maul people as a blocker. Again, you talk to Brian Fleury, 49ers tight ends coach. He was shocked that Willis was still available in the 7th round. You might even be able to flip it here. Cam Latu and Brayden Willis. Cam Latu, obviously out of Alabama, went in the 3rd round. But there was a lot of talk about the 49ers potentially overdrafting him, right? It seemed I had Cam Latu going to the 49ers in my mock draft, but I didn't think they were going to pick him until the 5th. So they picked him in the 3rd, late 3rd, so give the 49ers some leeway there. But a lot of other teams seem to have him lower on their boards. That would suggest the 49ers didn't get great value with Cam Latu. But it does seem they got better value with Brayden Willis. So maybe both of these guys, maybe the average plays out here, right? Maybe Latu plays and, performs as a 5th round rookie, and maybe Brayden Willis, also a 7th round pick, plays as a 5th round rookie. Therefore, you meet in the middle between the 3rd and the 7th rounds. But I will say this about Cam Latu, and Matt Barrows wrote a really good article about Cam Latu that you could check out on The Athletic as well. The 49ers believe that the conventional metrics are not correct here. And the 49ers have been right about this in the past. They've zagged when other teams have zigged. I mean, they might be the team that has drafted the best in the later rounds, right? Past the second round, the 49ers have been money, and that's because their scouting department has worked really well with their coaching staff ever since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan took over. So they found a lot of diamonds in the rough, including the player whom the 49ers are trying to complement with Latu and Willis at the tight end position, and that is George Kittle. But the 49ers believe that Cameron Latu, despite being a little slow on the 40 metrics, despite not really testing out in a way that tells you physical freak at all, they think he's got a lot of untapped strength still in his body. They think he's really, really strong, and that strength is still meat left on the bone to be developed as he reaches the NFL level. Because it's only been about 2 years since Cameron Latu transitioned from outside linebacker to tight end. And Alabama's got a complex pro-style system, so there was a lot for him to absorb there on his move to tight end. They say that once you cerebrally get everything down, that's when the physical side can really blossom, can really take off. So the 49ers think that what they have out of Cam Latu here physically is something that once he picks up Kyle Shanahan's system, he'll be able to take off. He'll be able to maul people in the run game. They liked his balance as a run blocker in college. They saw a lot of potential there, but maybe still needs to be able to dig down a little bit deeper, exert a little bit more strength. They like the fact that Cam Latu led Alabama in touchdown catches a couple seasons ago. In the red zone touchdown catches in Alabama, not touchdown catches, period. We know Alabama has a lot of quality wideouts who are very, very explosive, but Latu was a go-to target in the red zone. The yards after the catch weren't great, but the 49ers think he can get better. Are they going to be right? Are they going to be wrong? Well, they spent the third-round pick on Latu, and they spent the seventh-round pick here on Brayden Willis. Between both of those guys, they hope that one of them pans out to be the complement to George Kittle. It's Kyle Shanahan's dream to have a legitimate complement to George Kittle. We're not talking about Ross Dwelly. All respect to him. We're not talking about Charlie Werner. We're talking about an impact tight end too. It's not cheap to get an impact tight end too, but if you pick wisely and you develop well, maybe you'll run into some bang for your buck. And between Cameron Latu and Brayden Willis, the 49ers hope that they have done just that. Moving on, I wrote a piece about Ji'Ayir Brown as well. Why don't we get Ji'Ayir Brown up on the screen? It's open on The Athletic. Ji'Ayir Brown, just Google it. Ji'Ayir Brown, David Lombardi. And then you get, here it is, scouting new 49ers safety Ji'Ayir Brown and his uncanny way of getting picks. Now, mind you, I wrote this article which interviews Anthony Poindexter's Penn State safeties coach. So he worked with Ji'Ayir Brown there with the Nittany Lions. I wrote this before OTAs, after the 49ers had drafted Brown. And the quote in the headline is very clear. His uncanny way of getting picks. Well, Brown had 4 or 5 interceptions right off the bat in OTAs. He had 10 interceptions over the past 2 seasons at Penn State, which was more than any other player in this past year's NFL draft. So between the past 2 seasons and OTAs, Ji'Ayir Brown has 14 or 15 interceptions. You don't get 14 or 15 interceptions at a high level of play with a high level of competition by accident. You're doing something right to rack up that many interceptions. And at Penn State, it's not going to be easy. With the 49ers and OTAs, it's not going to be easy. But Ji'Ayir Brown consistently has been putting himself into good position, which shows us that his instincts are the real deal, right? The 40 time was questionable with Ji'Ayir Brown. 4.6, 40, very questionable. It was just a bad day. That's what the people surrounding him say, because they say that he plays just as fast as other elite safeties that they've seen at the college level. So, I think the 40 time, I talk about this a lot. I think it's overrated. Yesterday out here in Tennessee, I was at Jawan Jennings' camp. This is a great example, right? Jawan Jennings was one of the most respected players in the SEC. He ran a 4.7 40, maybe even close to 4.8. And nobody wanted to draft him until the 7th round. That's when the 49ers picked him. But Jawan Jennings separates better than anybody in the 49ers. You ask Kyle Shanahan about that. He says that Jennings is a better separator, potentially even than Brandon Ayuk. He's one of the better separators in the game. And obviously, Juwan Jennings has made a name for himself in the NFL with some big, big catches, third and Juwan, and then all those touchdown catches at crunch time in 2021. He's made a name for himself despite the fact that that measured straight line speed isn't great. You talk to SEC coaches or you talk to John Lynch, who knows a lot about safety play. He says that if Juwan Jennings had played safety in the SEC, he'd be a good safety prospect for the NFL. So the point is that you don't have to have a 4.3 to be a good football player or a good safety or even a good receiver in the case of Juwan Jennings. Apply that logic to Ji'Ayir Brown, ran a faster 40-yard dash than Juwan Jennings coming out of college, and that logic checks out again. This guy racked up the interceptions. This guy was in the right place at the right time. This guy has the instincts to be a successful NFL player. And this is what John Lynch thinks. And I think John Lynch knows a whole lot more about safety play than I do. Anthony Poindexter, who knows a hell of a lot about safety play, All-American safety at Virginia, knows a lot more about safety play than I do. A lot of people who know a lot about safety play will swear on Ji'Ayir Brown's instincts. And the 49ers aren't going to have him play a center field safety position from day one in the NFL anyway. They already have Talanoa Hufanga. They already have Tashawn Gibson. What the 49ers are looking for is longer-term safety depth because Gibson is going to be 33 years old, so you have to find a way to have an answer past 2023, but shorter-term third safety adaptability. Because new defensive coordinator Steve Wilks is going to get creative with this. You're not going to see him run all too much three linebacker stuff. You don't see NFL teams in general run three linebacker stuff. NFL teams love the nickel package. The 49ers just lost their third linebacker, Azeez Al-Shire, to free agency. So you've got two studs. We'll see how the young guys fight for that third spot. But remember that Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw are the only two backers that are going to be on the field more than 50% of the time. So how do you fill that resulting spot, that third linebacker spot or fifth DB spot, which opens up because you sit one linebacker in the nickel package? Well, in a standard situation, you could put the nickel back out on the field, right? And the 49ers made a signing at nickel back this offseason. But this is no standard situation. I think that the third safety can play in that fifth DB spot in situations that call for it. And that's where Ji'Ayir Brown might have his spot and his opportunity to deliver early on. Isaiah Oliver is the nickelback that the 49ers signed. And I think that Isaiah Oliver is going to get plenty of snaps. And he's going to get the majority of snaps when they're open, when that third linebacker is on the sideline. But even early on, the 49ers can start mixing Ji'Ayir Brown into the situation. And he doesn't necessarily have to be near the box, even though I think he's good near the box. He doesn't necessarily have to play in the high post, even though he has shown the capability of playing in the high post. You can rove him around. You can test him in different spots of the defense to see where he's going to be most comfortable. The 49ers last tried this with Talanoa Hufanga in 2021 as the third safety, and the results were very, very good. It prepared him to start in 2022, and look who was a first-team All-Pro in 2022, Talanoa Hufanga. So the future vision for Ji'Ayir Brown is to be the guy next to Talanoa Hufanga as one of the 49ers' top two safeties. But the short-term look at this is work him in, ease him in as the third safety, and give the new defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, more flexibility with how he uses his personnel packages on the back end. Jake Moody. Matt Barrows wrote the piece on Jake Moody. As you can tell, we covered all these rookies and we alternated. One of us wrote on Ji'Ayir Brown. The other one of us wrote on Jake Moody. The other one of us wrote on Cam Latu. I wrote on Brayden Willis. Jake Moody, 49ers kicker, looks solid during OTAs. I don't think that we're really going to know until the lights come on with Jake Moody, which is a little scary for the 49ers because assuming he just holds steady through practice, he's going to win the kicker competition against Zane Gonzalez. I think the 49ers are going to try to flip Zane Gonzalez for a draft pick. If they don't, if they're not able to, no harm, no foul. But Jake Moody, barring some unforeseen circumstances, is going to be the 49ers kicker in 2023. Then the question is he going to be ready once the lights come on at the NFL level? And I have to say that the 49ers ran him through the whole gamut of tests, the whole battery of tests. They're spraying water on the football. They're having Moody run out there and kick fire drill 60-yarders. And really psychologically putting him through the ringer. And Moody passed all of the 49ers tests. Jim Harbaugh swears by Jake Moody, and he coached him in college. 49ers did what they could to project that this guy's going to be legit at the NFL level, because I don't think the 49ers wanted to pay what they thought it would cost Robbie Gould. Now, there's been a little bit of drama on the Robbie Gould front. Robbie's come out and said, well, the 49ers never offered me anything. And it seemed like the opposite was being said a couple months ago when Robbie Gould decided to put out through, I think it was Adam Schefter, that he's not going to kick for the 49ers anymore next year. And I guess you might be able to reconcile those two things by saying that was Robbie Gould's reaction to not being offered anything. I think that both sides knew very well what the ballpark number of Robbie Gould would be. And I think the 49ers, who are close to overflowing salary cap wise, said, we don't want Robbie Gould at that price. And we don't want to insult somebody who has been such a good kicker for us, who's contributed so much for us over the past few seasons. We don't want to insult him with a low ball offer. So we're just not going to offer him, and we'll both leave in peace. And I think if you read all of Robbie Gould's comments the other day from the American Century Golf Championship, that was the gist of his feelings as well. He said he had no ill will to the 49ers. He said he didn't get an offer. It's a business. He hopes to get an offer from somebody else. I think that it just didn't make sense from either side. The 49ers wanted more out of their kickoff man. They weren't getting a whole lot out of Mitch Wishnowsky or Robbie Gould. They wanted a little extra range possibly on their kicks with a younger and fresher leg. And most of all, they wanted dependability at a lower price. They can fit it within a crowded salary cap situation. Because I've talked a lot. The 49ers have over $270 million in liabilities already lined up for the 2024 season. You've got to get younger, and with Robbie Gould on the wrong side of 40, it's been a good time to get younger. Now, the question is, should they have used the third-round draft pick? And a lot of people are freaking out about that, but the 49ers had quality in Robbie Gould, and they want to make sure they have quality with their rookie deal. The best kicker, I think very clearly, based on the battery of testing that the 49ers did this offseason, based on everybody's scouting, I think all teams agreed, the best kicker was Jake Moody. He was the cream of the crop in college football. So the 49ers said, well, we don't want to lose value at the kicker position if we don't have to. And if we're not going to pay Robbie Gould, we're sure as hell going to make sure that we get the best kicker that gives us the best chance to replace Robbie Gould's efficiency. That's why they used a late third-round pick, a comp pick. It might as well be a fourth-round pick. That's how the 49ers look at it on Jake Moody. And they had to trade up because they thought that the New England Patriots were about to do the same to grab Moody. And the Patriots ended up getting another kicker, which I think essentially proved that they wanted to go up and get Moody. So the 49ers have their man. Now he's got to validate them. Now he's got to go out and kick hopefully as accurately as Robbie Gould. If you're looking at this from the 49ers perspective, Gould fell off a little bit last year, but he's got to be accurate. He's got to be a valuable kickoff man. And boom, if that happens, the 49ers are going to be enjoying the same level of good efficiency as they did with the veteran at about a fourth or a fifth of the cost. And that's really big if you're trying to build a sustainable roster. A couple other rookies who are going to be showing up tomorrow for the 49ers on Rookie Report Day. The cornerback out of South Alabama, Darrell Luter Jr., and the Georgia edge rusher, Robert Beal Jr. Now, both of these players are going to be entering opportunities on the 90-man depth chart. And I'm going to share this with you right now because I think we need to look at this visually. So look down here at the bottom half of this screen. First, Darrell Luter Jr., highlighted here in yellow. Look at him. I have him listed at nickelback, but the 49ers believe that he's going to have inside-out adaptability. You obviously have your top three players here at both cornerback positions and at nickel, and Charvarius Ward, Diamador Lenore, and Isaiah Oliver. By the way, tomorrow we're going to be Charvarius Ward days away from Report Day 7, so we'll talk about Mooney tomorrow. Diamador Lenore in a few days, when it's 2 days out. But anyway, you've got this trio, right? But the depth beyond this trio, I think, is sketchy. Ambry Thomas, sketchy. Didn't do anything last year, right? I mean, he did a little bit in 2021, but injuries, whatever it was last year, you didn't really hear from Ambry Thomas. Samuel Womack, good special teams player. Do you fully trust him to be an outside cornerback with the game on the line? I think he still has a lot to prove. So Darrell Luter can step in there, and Darrell Luter can immediately make a mark on the 49ers. You're only as good as your worst cornerback. And if guys start going down due to injuries, the 49ers are going to have serious questions at cornerback. So they like Darrell Luter's maturity. He's been married. He's already got a family. They think that this guy's got the right head for a really pressure-packed job in the NFL. Meanwhile, Robert Beal Jr., go up here and you look at the 49ers defensive line. Bosa's a stud. Armstead's a stud. Javon Hargrave, new stud on the team. The one spot that you're not really sure about in the top four, and we've talked a lot about this, is Drake Jackson's spot. So that's why there's such a big magnifying glass on the second-year player out of USC. Because if he delivers this year, if he starts realizing some potential, then Drake Jackson is going to be able to bookend Nick Bosa, and the 49ers defense could be historic. But if that doesn't happen, then the defense probably has a ceiling of just very good, like last year. They're the number one defense already, but they're going to need to replenish the lost edge rushing depth, and that starts with Drake Jackson if they're going to be a stronger number one in 2023. But it's not all up to Drake. Look right behind Drake, Robert Beal. Cleveland Farrell is another depth piece at defensive end. Austin Bryant, another potential depth piece at defensive end. But what an exciting opportunity for Robert Beal Jr., who broke the athleticism metrics that the 49ers look for. Did not break the stats sheet at Georgia, but the 49ers thought that he dropped back into coverage too often, that he wasn't really utilized in a way that emphasizes his explosiveness. The 49ers think they could insert Robert Beal into certain pass down packages. He's a light edge rusher in the 230s or 240s, and they think he could rip around the edge. They think he could get the F off the football. That is the Chris Kocurek metric, GTFO. He scored higher than any other edge rusher in this draft, Robert Beal did. The 49ers think he can plug and play into a very specific need for an otherwise loaded defense. I mean, there will be times when this defense is on the field where 10 of the 11 spots are locked down, no questions asked, studs on the field, and that last spot is the second edge rushing spot opposite Nick Bosa. That's the spot that's going to have to prove itself. Is Drake Jackson going to be the guy that proves himself? Maybe it is. Maybe Drake Jackson will prove himself. But there's going to be times when Drake Jackson, even if he is a stud, has to come off the field. And that's where Robert Beal has a golden opportunity to deliver right away this year. Maybe it won't come right away, but it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity at the very least that we cannot ignore for Robert Beal Jr. Coming out of Georgia. He's going to be playing in a scheme that should be very, very tailored to what he does well. All right, linebacker position. D. Winters and Jalen Graham. These are the 49ers' two late draft picks at the linebacker spot. D. Winters out of TCU, Jalen Graham out of Purdue. I have both of them here at the linebacker position highlighted in yellow. My question is, we saw Marcelino McCrary-Ball doing some boxing the other day. I know it was his first time boxing. He was there with Dre Greenlaw, who looks like Mike Tyson. By the way, I think I could take Dre Greenlaw off the injury list. I think the wrist looks healthy, right? We saw him boxing the other day. Unhighlighted Dre Greenlaw there. But anyway, we saw McCrary-Ball boxing with Greenlaw, and McCrary-Ball just looked ripped. It looks like he's really been crafting his body in the offseason. The 49ers love the work he put in on the practice squad last year. So my question is, since McCrary-Ball already has a season in the system, is he the more immediate replacement for third linebacker, Azeez Al-Shire, or the more immediate candidate, while D. Winters and Jalen Graham are going to have to battle for their spots behind him? These are the questions that we ponder at night on July 17th. We're still a few days away from these questions starting to be answered in training camp. So it's one of those things where D. Winters and Jalen Graham are two very different players. D. Winters, very instinctive rusher. He fired gaps that, they looked like blitzes last year, but they weren't blitzes. He was just on instincts and had a ton of run stops, had a ton of sacks behind the line of scrimmage, 11 tackles for loss last season. Almost none of those came on blitzes, but almost all of them looked like blitzes. Jalen Graham, meanwhile, he's long, right? Jalen Graham is going to have that 6'3", 6'4" wingspan. He might remind you a little bit of Fred Warner. He's going to be good in coverage, at least according to the athleticism and the metrics. The 49ers think they can develop him into a good NFL linebacker cover type. So you have two different styles of players. They're both going to have to work on their weaknesses to make it at this next level because the guys in front of them on this roster are really damn good in Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. And I just wonder, I mean, they were late round draft picks for a reason. It's because there's a lot to polish up for D. Winters and Jalen Graham. And Marcelino McCrary-Ball, the undrafted free agent out of Indiana from the year before, he's already had a season to start polishing stuff up. McCrary-Ball is an awesome story, by the way. He was working at Home Depot when the 49ers drafted him. But, it's one of those things where we'll see how the 49ers developmental system continues churning out players. Because Fred Warner was a developmental guy. 3rd round pick, they turned into a superstar. Dre Greenlaw was a 5th round pick the year after that. He's playing really well, right? Azeez Al-Shire, undrafted free agent, they turned him into somebody who got paid and is now off the roster. So the 49ers have been a factory at linebacker. Johnny Holland is a hell of a coach. DeMeco Ryans was a hell of a coach for the linebackers, former linebacker himself. He's no longer there. Can the 49ers keep that factory churning with McCrary-Ball, with Jalen Graham, and with D. Winters? All right, Ronnie Bell. Let's move over to the offensive side of the ball. Receiver Ronnie Bell. Where's he at? Right here. I have Ronnie Bell making the roster. See him at that receiver position. I highlighted it right here. The reason I say that Ronnie Bell is a potential long-term puzzle piece is that the 49ers have not liked to pay number 3 wideouts in the past. They extended a tender to Kendrick Bourne when he was a restricted free agent in 2020, and he accepted it, and that was $4.3 million per year. But once Bourne was an unrestricted free agent, he signed with New England for $6 million per year. The 49ers weren't willing to cross that $5 million threshold. Juwan Jennings is going to be in that position that Kendrick Bourne was in 2020 this offseason contractually. Right? Juwan Jennings is going to be a restricted free agent. The 49ers will be able to slap the 1st round, the 2nd round, or the original round tender on him. But the thing is that I think Juwan Jennings is a better, more impactful player than Kendrick Bourne ever was. We were at Juwan's camp the other day. We can play some videos maybe in a little bit from that, but be sure to check them out there on the channel. I mean, Juwan is the player that you hate to play against. You love him on your team. You hate him when he's with somebody else. And a team that runs the football as much as the 49ers do, in a league where receivers hate blocking. I mean, there's hardly any receivers who like to block. The vast majority of them play for the 49ers. That's a team who's really going to value somebody like Juwan Jennings. Not to mention he made all those big catches against the Rams in 2022, but it was in week 18 of the 2021 season. I said he separates really, really well at the top of this show. I mean, the 49ers are probably going to want to keep Juwan Jennings, but the issue is they may not be able to because of all the things that he does well and the fact that everybody's starting to copy how the 49ers play football and play offense. One of Shanahan's lieutenants who's coaching somewhere else, Mike McDaniel's a good example. LaFleur is another good example. One of these guys might want to overpay Juwan Jennings, at least relative to what the 49ers are willing to pay him. So you have a situation where maybe Ronnie Bell is going to have a chance down the line. Ronnie Bell impressed me during OTAs because he went up and caught some footballs, had an alpha presence, seemed to have good hands. He dropped a couple passes later on, but I mean, he does a lot of stuff right. And it might be a developmental year for Ronnie Bell, but he could be a potential puzzle piece in case the 49ers can't afford Juwan Jennings moving forward, because Jennings earned his due early on in special teams. Ronnie Bell's going to have to do that. I think he's capable of that. And Ronnie's going to be a guy who, when you look forward into the plans for 2024, if he strengthens in an NFL weight room, if he comes along the way the 49ers want him to, may give them a lot more flexibility for that wide receiver position come that season. All right, we went through all the draftees. How about the undrafted free agents? UDFA watch. I'm looking at Deshaun Jameson, the 5'9" shutterbug out of Texas, because I talked about Darrell Luter having an opportunity at corner and nickel. I think if Darrell Luter has an opportunity, Deshaun Jameson, who was electric at Texas, is going to have an opportunity. You talk about special teams. This guy was housing punts, housing kicks on special teams. He might be an immediate impact special teams candidate, which can help him make the 53-man roster. And then there's Joey Fisher, really, really strong, physically strong guard. He didn't go to the combine, but pumped out more bench press reps than anybody at the combine. He could be good interior line depth. My question, though, is exactly whose spot would he take? And same thing with Deshaun Jameson. Would Deshaun Jameson take Ambry Thomas's spot? Would he take Womack's spot? Is he going to leapfrog Darrell Luter? I don't know. I mean, these are all good questions. And in the case of Joey Fisher, well, 49ers have some depth. Feliciano, John, is going to make the team. They want that veteran inside presence. But Nick Zakel, 6th-round pick from a year prior, he's got some work to do. Obviously, somebody's going to need to be a tackle, the backup tackle. That's probably going to be Matt Pryor, but maybe Jalen Moore makes the team as well. So Joey Fisher might be a practice squad candidate, as might be some of these other undrafted free agents. You can go through the list. Spencer Wagee out of North Dakota State, edge rusher Avery Young, safety out of Rutgers, Corey Luciano, you have out of Washington, the center, Il Manning, guard out of Hawaii, Isaiah Winstead. He was the guy that got signed after putting out the impressive social media tape. He is a wide receiver, 6'4" wide out. Jack Coletto, the really versatile fullback, quarterback, running back, tight end, you name it, linebacker out of Oregon State. And then Kalon LeBourne and Ronald Awat, the 2 running backs. So the 49ers have a lot of, players here who have put some impressive stuff on film, but they're undrafted free agents, and they're going to be facing uphill battles to make the roster. One reason I don't like to really project stuff in stone right now is guys are going to get hurt. Spots are going to open up. Trading camp is going to be this living, breathing thing that's going to change the 49ers needs on an almost daily basis, right? Which is what makes it so exciting, which is why we're going to sit here updating you every minute of every day about the latest 49ers happening. So go ahead and hit that like button, hit the sub button, hit that little alert button, subscribe to the channel, because the hard work is about to start. All right, I'm going to open this up to a 49ers Q&A as we sit here one day on the eve of rookie report for training camp. After the rookies report, the veterans will have an entire week to report. So hope everybody's doing well. We've been on air for 32 minutes, got started just on time today, ready to answer some of your questions. I would hope that somebody asks about running backs because of the Josh Jacobs situation, because I think that there's good stuff to talk about at the running back position. I think the 49ers are a good example of the value of an elite running back, of paying a running back. You can see why Shanahan wanted to spend all those 3rd-round picks on running backs and then spent a ton of picks to get Christian McCaffrey and then to pay Christian McCaffrey, because he completely transformed the 49ers offense. Before I take questions, why don't I talk about the running back position? I posted something online, so that's why I'm just popping out here, grabbing a graphic. Here you go. Look at this. Yes, running backs matter. That up on the screen. So here's my spiel. Today, obviously, the Josh Jacobs drama has resuscitated an age-old question. Are running backs worth paying? A lot of analytics people say no. The 49ers have gone counter the analytics community ever since Kyle Shanahan joined, and he said yes. So spent a 4th-round pick on Joe Williams. He spent money on Jerick McKinnon in 2018. He's obviously spent 3rd-round picks on Trey Sermon and Ty Davis Price. And despite seeing undrafted free agent success from the likes of Matt Breida, remember that? Matt Breida, that was big when the 49ers picked him up in 2017. And Jeff Wilson, 2018 product. Despite seeing all this undrafted free agent success from those guys and 6th-round draft success from Elijah Mitchell in 2021, Kyle Shanahan has still found it necessary to spend big on Christian McCaffrey. And by big, I mean 2nd-round pick, 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick, 5th-round pick, and then a $12 million cap hit this year, followed by 2 more $12 million cap hits in future years. 49ers have invested more in the running back position than any other team in football since Kyle Shanahan took over. Has it been a good move? I think yes. Look what Christian McCaffrey did to the offense last year. This is pre and post McCaffrey. The delineation in efficiency, with red being bad and blue being good for the 49ers offensively, efficiency wise, ran strictly along the lines of whether or not they had Christian McCaffrey. It didn't delineate between Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo. They were both about equally efficient, and the defense was a bit better under Purdy, so they scored more points. But if you want the actual truth of why the offense started performing better last year, it was when they picked up Christian McCaffrey, when he started spacing the field like Steph Curry. And the reason that McCaffrey is so valuable as a running back is because he's not only a running back, because this is a multi-positional offense. McCaffrey can line up as tailback. He could line up as a slot receiver. He could line up as an outside receiver. Hell, he could line up as an H-back, tight end kind of position. He, like many other 49ers weapons, is so versatile that Shanahan can put him anywhere, and he could cause headaches with the leverage that McCaffrey can create in his matchup. Just like Steph Curry of the Warriors can run around the floor without the ball and still be a gravitational force to open things up for Klay Thompson, for whoever else the Warriors have, Chris Paul this year, but Chris Paul probably be a little bit more of a distributor. You're going to have the 49ers relying on Christian McCaffrey to eat up a second defender, open the door for George Kittle, for Deebo Samuel, for Brandon Ayuk, for Kyle Juszczyk. I could go on and on and on. So yes, running backs matter. And yes, running backs are worth paying when they have this kind of impact on your offense. So I hope that the hand-wringing finally stops. Oh, why are the 49ers using a third-round pick on this guy? Why are they spending valuable money on here? There were a lot of naysayers about the Christian McCaffrey pickup saying you could just find an undrafted free agent to do what Christian McCaffrey does. Well, I'll tell you what. 49ers did what's in the left column here with an undrafted free agent, Jeff Wilson. Fine running back. Wasn't a bad player. But there's a difference between not spending and then spending. And you've got to spend to get the elite players. And the right column, that's what they got with Christian McCaffrey. So they might have spent on the wrong guys when they were drafting Trey Sermon. Jury's still out on Ty Davis Price. Wrong guy with Joe Williams in 2017. But that doesn't mean that their thought process on the aggregate of using more valuable capital to address a valuable position to maximize your chances of finding a good player is wrong. And I think that McCaffrey demonstrates this. Great players in Kyle Shanahan's scheme at a versatile running back position will improve your productivity. So yes, running backs do matter. On to the 49ers Q&A. Off the soapbox here for at least a little minute. Let's get this out. All right, 49ers Q&A, opening up the comments section. McCaffrey can line up a quarterback, but if that happens, the 49ers are not in a good spot, as evidenced by the NFC Championship game last year. I think the 49ers already have made a huge splash free agent. Oh, you say trade. Well, free agent trade, that's an oxymoron. You can't trade for a free agent. You sign a free agent. The 49ers have made a massive splash on the free agent market by signing Javon Hargrave. Will they make a huge splash trade? Just cross out free agent on that question. They've left it open. They have draft picks to be able to trade away so that they're armed with capital. They're going to have a first rounder for the first time since 2021 when they picked Trey Lance. They have the cap space for an A-list player. They're going to have to get creative. They're going to have to make sure they replenish their B-listers with draftees, cheap rookie deal, bargain bin deals. I think, just as much as the 49ers' fortunes over the first few weeks as far as how good they are, what they need to get the extra step, just as much as that's going to determine if they want to pull the trigger and make the trade, so will the performance of a lot of their rookies in more minor roles. Because if they start getting good play from the glue pieces, the rookies, the guys that are going to be able to continue doing that on the cheap over the next 2 or 3 years past this season, if the 49ers are seeing a lot of good production there, they can afford to roll the dice of bringing in another big contract through a trade. Because the A-list core can grow and grow and grow with the cap as long as you have the supplementary talent coming at a cost-efficient price. So use the first few weeks as a measuring stick for multiple things, right? See where you're at with these rookies filling up cost efficient depth. See where you at as a football team, where the weaknesses need to be filled. See what players are available on the trade market. Last year, the 49ers didn't know that Christian McCaffrey was going to be available before the deadline when the season started, but he became available. So see how the rest of the league develops and then decide if you're going to make that big splash. Do I see Ji'Ayir Brown starting over Gibson at any point this season? It's possible. And I think it's especially possible because injuries could happen. I mean, Tashawn Gibson's an older player. He got through last season, I think, relatively unscathed, right? You can knock on wood. You hope that it doesn't happen to anybody. I'll knock on wood. Nobody likes injuries. But Talanoa Hufanga can get hurt. He dealt with some injury issues last year. Something like that could immediately thrust Ji'Ayir Brown into a role. At this point, you can't be thinking about specifics like this in this kind of way. Oh, is he going to start over him? Or how are they going to play the depth chart in week 17? No, you have to think of it in terms of depth and options at a position. Stock the positions with as many quality players as possible. So that way you can cross the bridge of problems as they come during the regular season. Quarterback should be looked at the same exact way. People are obsessing over Lance, Darnold, Purdy, QB1. Just look at the room. Stock the room. Have as many options as possible. These answers will come organically once the season actually starts. Ruben Luna thinks that Ayuk's going to be the MVP next year. I think the 49ers win the Super Bowl if Ayuk's the MVP. Great player, but to be the MVP coming out of this lineup with that many weapons, that means you've really done something. Absolutely. I know you probably just joined, but if you rewind, go to the start of the show, talked a lot about 3 safety sets with Ji'Ayir Brown. Gibson was a great budget signing. Minimum salary last year for the production he gave the 49ers. That was awesome. Do I think that Steve Wilks takes this defense to the next level? Well, let me give you some reading. Let me give you some homework, and you could decide. Here you go. Inside Steve Wilks' crash course on the 49ers defense and the history behind it. I kind of want to tweet this out immediately. Put up a new window. Because this is the piece that's going to tell you, I think, the most out about what Kyle Shanahan is demanding out of Steve Wilks' background, the process the 49ers went through to hire Steve Wilks, and the vision they have for him as defensive coordinator. I do think they're going to blitz more. I do think they're going to be more diversified in the secondary. And then the rest is probably up to health. But Steve Wilks is a respected name for a reason. All right, we're getting this one up on Twitter right now. By the way, Lombardi himself on Twitter, so you can check it out. A lot of talk about Trey Lance right now. Should be interesting to see him, see Purdy, see Sam Darnold. We'll see when Purdy's available. And that's going to be one of the big questions entering July 25th. Smash that like button and check out this article on Steve Wilks. It's on Twitter, by the way. So you can go ahead, follow me there, check out the piece. Do I see Trent Williams playing longer than his contract, or do you think he will retire? I think he's taking it 1 year at a time. He's been the number 1 tackle in football for 3 straight seasons. So he's experienced the rebirth after beating cancer, right? And beating his way out of Washington. That was good as well for Trent Williams. He's seen that number 1 ranking as far as PFF grade goes for 3 straight seasons. I think the film corroborates that dominance. As long as he's posted number 1 PFF grades, I don't think that Trent Williams is going to want to hang him up. If a decline starts, then we could start talking about it. But I would take it 1 season at a time for right now. I think Fisher, I mean, if you started the season right now and cut down the roster, Joey Fisher would probably be a practice squad player. But guys can improve a lot, especially guys who played at small schools who didn't really have a chance to improve against better competition. He can improve a lot over the course of a training camp. So this is a determination that the 49ers do not have to make right now. I'll tell you what, though, you don't sign a guy because you think he's just going to be a practice squad player. Even if he's an undrafted free agent, you sign him because you think you could develop him into something more. You think that that potential is there. So, no, I don't think the 49ers, or I don't see him as just a practice squad player. I think he's got more potential, but I don't know if he's going to realize it. There's a good chance the 49ers bring in another pass rush specialist, but I don't think that that time is necessarily right now. Training camp's going to have to start. They're going to see what they're working with. I mentioned all the names earlier. Robert Beal Jr., Cleveland Farrell, Austin Bryant. Hell, the first stringer on my list right now, Drake Jackson, remains a question mark. So you've got to wait. You've got to see what you have, and then you could pounce a little bit later because the 49ers are not in a position to spend big money on somebody who's going to flame out. That's what can put them over the cap and put them into cap hell in 2024. They have to be really prudent with their money right now. And you have to make sure that you're very targeted, very specific with who you sign. And to do that, you have to collect the most intelligence possible. And they're going to be collecting intelligence in their own guys during training camp. Isaiah Oliver is a big nickel, 6'1", 210 pounds. He fits in that nickel back role. He's a really good nickel, played well there for Atlanta. He's an inside corner, not an outside corner. Doesn't quite have the speed to cover on the outside, but he's a guy who could be a missile near that line of scrimmage. And that bigger size allows him to take on some blocks, be more adaptable against the run. Thank you. The Jawan Jennings interview yesterday from his camp was fun. You could check it out on the channel. Appreciate you, Todd. Yeah, he was a high school quarterback. There's several games where he threw 400 yards. Came from behind 30 points. He was telling me about yesterday in a game in high school. I mean, Jawan is an athlete. Who's the best athlete on the field? He playing here. I'm in the Nashville area in high school. So yeah, he might be a guy that you can run in a trick play. He caught the trick play touchdown, but Deebo Samuel threw it. That was against the Rams in that Week 18 game, 2021 season. So Jawan Jennings is a guy that you like to have on your team. Appreciate you, Eric. Is there any contest for the fourth wide receiver spot, or is it locked with Ray Ray? Well, I don't look at it in terms of a number anymore, especially once you get past 3. I look at it in terms of roles. Ray Ray is going to be a gadget guy. He's also going to be Deebo's backup, right? You put him in as the versatile weapon behind Deebo Samuel when Deebo needs a little bit of a breather. I think that they really want Danny Gray to be the speed burner on this football team, right? So that could be a number 4 wide receiver role as well. So there definitely is a contest because, somebody like Danny Gray has to develop more presence than he had last year to be able to take on that role, to be able to convince Kyle Shanahan to go with more burner snaps. So there's always competition for these spots because the way the 49ers dice it up is going to depend on who impresses and who earns the trust of Kyle Shanahan. I don't know how Winstead's looking out there because he's not out there yet. Isaiah Winstead, the 6'4" rookie, undrafted free agent, is going to be one of the players who reports tomorrow with the 49ers rookies. Of course, the pregame stadium tours will continue. That's why you guys got to follow, subscribe right now. I think we're going to hit 40,000 before the season starts. And if you haven't subscribed, you hit that button right now because we're like 200 away from 40K. It would be really fun to start the season at 40K. So stop whatever you're doing. It takes 3 seconds. Hit the subscribe button. Support the channel. Would really, really love that. 281 to 40K. Do it right now. Like seriously, drop what you're going to forget if you don't do it right now. Drop what you're doing and subscribe. 49ers defense just as versatile as the offense. You're right. They could play 3 safety, which is a variation of nickel, in my opinion. They could play dime. They could put 3 safeties in that dime package. Obviously, the front's a 4-3, but they can do creative stuff with the defensive end in the front. Occasionally, they are going to run some zone drops. It is an adaptable defense, that's for sure. And hell yeah, start the video with a like. I like that. Like that. Get it? Pun intended. 49 minutes in for the 49ers. Put that roster back up on the screen. If you want to follow along this season, those of you who are new, I keep this updated to the minute, I promise. Whenever the 49ers make a move, I update it and it will give you, and I'm putting this in the comment section right now, it'll give you the numbers. It will show you the depth chart. It'll show you who's hurt. This is the spot that you need to go to track the 49ers roster. So be sure to check that out. Which storyline from camp am I most excited for? Most excited for this quarterback situation to finally give us some news so people stop talking out of their ass about the quarterback situation. Be very pleasant. Kenny wants to see a lot of zone blitzes like the 91s, like the 1990s Steelers. You know, Steve Wilkes likes the blitz. Maybe we'll see it from him. Will Jackson and Kinlaw make an impact this year, or are they on the block? I don't think that Drake Jackson's on the trade block. If they could trade Javon Kinlaw and get something good back, they might do that, right? But he has no value right now. He's hardly played the last couple years. Have been those knee issues. So he's going to cost you $4.9 million this year. It's guaranteed money. You can't get out of it. And you hope that he can deliver behind Javon Hargrave. It's as simple as that for Javon Kinlaw. You hope that he can deliver out of a less pressurized role than the one that he was in earlier in his career. He's not going to be a starter anymore. They have Javon Hargrave for that express purpose. Unless somebody gets hurt, Javon Kinlaw is going to have a lower pressure role that the 49ers hope is going to be good for both his psyche and for his knee. I'm most impressed with Deshaun Jameson out of Texas. His college film is really good. Really good. Might be a little short to be an outside corner, but hell, he's fast. Special teams. 5'9" is better for the inside too. He's got more short area quickness. I really like the defensive back, Deshaun Jameson. Looks like Mike agrees with me on Kinlaw. I mean, Trey's motion looks good. We saw the TCU video with Jeff Christensen. I think that the releases look better when he's working in a vacuum. I thought it looked a little bit better during 49ers OTAs, but it's just really hard to tell if he's going to be able to carry it forward through live action. And that's what training camp is going to start to answer. Brock has been working out in Florida. He also proposed to his girlfriend, now fiance, Jenna, out in Florida. So it's been a good offseason for him as far as recovery goes. We haven't seen him throw in person yet, though. I haven't seen a video of Brock Purdy throwing since he got hurt. So the question is, how is he going to look? What is the timeline going to be? That's why I'm so excited for camp. I think we're finally going to start to see some of this stuff answered. Appreciate you, Joel. Good stuff. Hell yeah, I do think we have the best 49ers content here on The Athletic. It's the same thing. I just try to promote the stuff on The Athletic right here on the channel. Well, Elijah Mitchell is a number one type back if he's healthy, but Christian McCaffrey is also a number one type back. If they're both healthy, you could put them both on the field at the same time. And you could start torturing defenses if you're Kyle Shanahan. I think that's the role, right? You have insurance at the running back position. You have depth. You have strength in numbers in case guys don't stay healthy, because that's a reality of the game. But if they're all healthy and you've got that embarrassment of riches, you can use it to your advantage schematically with X's and O's by putting them both out there. All right. Any more questions? Let's go. We got over 300 on this show. This was fun. That's a good number for an off-season show. Mitchell's like Jimmy Garoppolo, very productive when healthy, but health is the issue. And he's been hurt even more than Jimmy Garoppolo, bigger percentage of the time. Obviously, a more bruising position, running back than quarterback, but I do think that is a sound comparison. Joel's concern with McCaffrey's his injury history. Trade price was good if he stays healthy, but he had just come from 2 injury-plagued seasons. That's true. But other than those 2 seasons, McCaffrey's been healthy through and through, and then he was healthy with the 49ers last year. That's me knocking on wood. He also had a good record of health at Stanford. I covered McCaffrey there. So I don't know if he's injury prone. I don't think you could say that yet. I think you probably could say that about Elijah Mitchell until he proves otherwise. But with McCaffrey, it could have just been a couple blips that happened to be back to back. And the 49ers have to hope that that is the case. Because if it is the case that those were just blips and he doesn't get hurt again, the price will have been worth it. The game plan with training camp, thank you, by the way. Yeah, there are going to be interviews after every practice, press conferences, video footage, reactions from me. So that's why you got to hit the sub button, the live reactions right away after training camp. You're going to be worth it again. Those were fun last year. I started those after the 49ers fight in training camp in 2022. Go for anxious about 49ers Eagles week 13. That week 13 last year was 49ers Dolphins. That's when Garoppolo got hurt. Purdy came in. This season, 49ers are going to be on the road on the East Coast. Married life going well. Going well. Can't complain. Ask Brock Purdy how married life is going in a little bit. We'll see when he schedules his wedding. Could Fisher turn into Brunskill, ability to play multiple positions? The 49ers talking about him only as an interior lineman, but he maybe could play multiple on the interior, maybe get him ready for center. So, yeah, I mean, but I think it's going to be at least a year, though, for that kind of adaptability. He's moving up a big jump from Shepherd University to the NFL. Who all got training camp tickets? Mike asks. Will Juice's role decrease when both Mitchell and CMC play? Possibly. Kyle could get really creative, though. And again, this is not a thing to analyze beforehand because we don't know who's going to be healthy. We don't know what the personnel packages of the defense are going to be. We don't know the situation until we get on a week by week basis. This is more stuff that we kind of retroactively analyze if they all stay healthy. Okay, how are the 49ers using McCaffrey, Mitchell, and Juszczyk? Because this is something you need your magnifying glass for. This is not something that you're going to look at with a telescope a couple months away from the season. I'll be there every single day of camp. You can count on that to answer that question. If Purdy's next Drew Brees, the 49ers are in business. That's for sure. Do I suspect that Deebo Samuel will have a bounce back year this season? Well, even in a down year, he did some good stuff last year. Somebody was like, well, if this is Deebo Samuel out of shape, and then they showed a video of that play where he ran over Jalen Ramsey in week 5 against the Rams, that's pretty impressive. And he looks, I mean, I saw the boxing video the other day. It looks like he's lost weight. It looks like Deebo is in shape this offseason. So, yeah, I think he'll be closer to his 2021 numbers than he was in 2022. Now, will he get up to the 2021 level? Probably not, no matter how good of shape he's in. 1,400 receiving yards, 300 or 400 rushing yards, because the 49ers just have so many other weapons. They didn't have McCaffrey in 2021. So Samuel getting up to 2021 production might be a bad sign for the 49ers because I think that only happens if a lot of other skill position weapons get hurt. Mike's going to be at camp. You should say hi to him out there. Juszczyk is still impactful, not can be. Juszczyk is. He's one of the more impactful offensive players in football. So important to the run game. I mean, I can't tell you if I think Brayden Willis has a chance at Offensive Rookie of the Year. That's a long way away, man. He's going to have to be really good. He's going to have to really outperform the 7th round draft status. I think every rookie might have a chance, but let's revisit this question in a couple months. Oh, you've been a 49er fan since 1969. Wow. Good stuff, everybody. Well, I know that we're all excited for training camp. I know that I put together a long show, talked for an hour, so make sure that everybody hits the like button right now, because talking for an hour late at night, not easy. But I do it for you, and I do it because the 49ers rookies report to training camp tomorrow. Then we have a full week until the veterans report, July 25th. So exciting times indeed in football fan land. We are yesterday we were 9 days away. Brayden Willis days away from 49ers training camp. Now we're 8. We're Steve Young days away from 49ers training camp. Tomorrow it will be 7. That means we'll be back with more content. Talk to everybody soon. Remember, hit that sub button, hit the like, and have a good night.